authors, welcome to Author Nation. This is the place where authors help authors. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, do it now because you don't want to miss a thing. We do live interviews every Thursday. And on top of that, I also put up videos myself on every topic you will need to succeed as a nonfiction author. And today I'm interviewing, Today I'm interviewing Susan Friedmann. She is a CSP, and that is a certified speaking professional. So we're going to have an awesome interview today, but she is also an international best-selling author. She has published over 17 books of her own, and she is on a mission to wipe out sameness and add vitality and differentiation to your author marketing. Through her company, Aviva Publishing, she's guided hundreds of nonfiction authors to use their books to become a recognized expert authority in their field. And on top of that, she has her own podcast called Book Marketing Mentors. Let's welcome Susan Friedmann. Hi, Susan. How are you today?
Hi, good to be here, Melody Ann. It's lovely. I'm so excited. You're doing a wonderful job with this and giving so many great tools to nonfiction authors.
Thank you. Thank you. I love what you say about wiping out sameness. Can we just talk about sameness just a little bit? There's, so many books on the market, millions and Amazon, right? Books, new books all the time. And a lot of people want to try to look like everyone else. And they want that sameness because it's safe. But is it safe, Susan? Can you just talk a little bit about this?
Yes, it's very safe, but it may not sell books because you've got so much competition out there in the marketplace. It's like, okay, when there's an opportunity to sell books in a niche market, and you and I were talking about niches earlier, that is far more profitable and you have fewer competitors. So I'm all about niche marketing. As you know, my international best-selling book, Riches and Niches, How to Make It Big in a Small Market. So just got to get that one in.
Absolutely. Want to talk about that book today because this is that was the book. I saw that book and I thought, okay, this is the person I need to speak to, right? Riches and Niches. This is great. But you're also a speaker. Not only did you write that book, you're a speaker and you're an author, and you've been doing this for years. So tell us a little bit about your career.
Oh my goodness, it's very colorful, and it all started when I was laid off. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And then I thought, hey, I've got to take the reins of my own destiny into my own hands. I'm not letting anybody else do that. So, close on 30 years ago, Melody Ann, I started my company, and I was in a real niche market. I was in the trade show market, exhibiting at trade shows. That was my first book, exhibiting at trade shows, tips and techniques for success. And let me tell you, that sold at over 500,000 copies. Because it wasn't on Amazon. I was in a niche market. I was going after the people who needed the information that I had to offer. And that is the key. We're talking about differentiation, and you're differentiating yourself because you are going to the people who need your message, the value that you as an author offer in your market with your expertise, with your credibility. So, that's really key. And I did that for over 25 years. And to be honest with you, I lost my passion for it. And I'd had my company, Aviva Publishing, really in the beginning just to publish my own works, because there are not too many traditional publishers, in fact, no traditional publishers who are really interested in books on trade shows. So that's how I started, but I do have 4 traditionally published books, and a Dummies book, a For Idiots guidebook, and then the Riches and Niches book. So yes, I've published a lot, And I just love working with my authors now. I've dedicated myself to working with authors. It's interesting. I was about 25 years into my business, and a book coach came to me and said, "Would you publish my book?" And I was like,
Mm.
"I've got my publishing company, but
Yeah.
it's for my books. I didn't
Yeah.
think about publishing anybody else's book, but I did." And that sort of was a chain reaction for other book coaches who refer me, and people publish under Aviva Publishing. And I just love working with the authors to help them go from being that unknown author to expert authority.
Yeah. So your first book was nothing to do with publishing. It was more about marketing and finding that niche in the niche in the trade shows.
Oh,
And then
totally. Exhibiting at trade shows,
look
tips
at
and
that.
techniques for success. I
Brilliant.
mean,
You have a copy of it.
this is an antique, let me tell
Yeah.
you.
It's vintage material right there.
Vintage material, but this sold 500,000 copies.
Brilliant.
And it did to one company because I was speaking to the right audience.
Yeah.
That company had the same target audience as me, but we weren't competitors.
Yeah.
So we could work together. So we built this partnership, the strategic partnership, where I supplied the educational marketing materials to their clients, and they provided the hardware that exhibitors needed to go to the trade shows. So it was a great marriage.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. So as that, as that business expanded and then you felt you didn't have the passion, you started writing other books. Were all the other books written in the genre of marketing books, or have you written in other genres?
That's a great question. And interestingly enough, I've produced 6 anthologies, the compilation books.
Yes.
And so those are actually 6 of my books. 3 of them are in the trade show market, and 3 are actually in the personal development market. So, yeah, I just sort of spread my wings a little bit. And of course, the Riches and Niches book is more about, I used my experience in the trade show industry as to how I went from being a nobody to being the go-to expert in the industry in trade show training. Let's just be specific about that. It was a very small niche. However, it was a multi-billion-dollar industry, which is what the trade show industry is. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and people don't realize that. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think that's such a good point. We're going to pick up on that just a little bit later, because I think that's a really important point. Just because it's a small market doesn't mean there's no money in it.
That's right.
Let's remember that. But I just want to ask you one more question about, those 6 anthologies. That's a lot of practice in publishing. So I can see how you went from that one trade book, to another couple of books. And then somebody said, "Will you publish my book?" to 6 anthologies to, okay, now I've got this. I figured this out. I can publish books. Is that kind of how it went?
Yeah, I mean, it was always a sideline because I was doing the trade show training, and on the side, I was working with the authors. And it was only about 5 or 6 years ago that, after I lost my passion in the trade show industry, that I decided, here, I've got this business that I really enjoy. Let me put my heart and soul into it. And now I can do a lot more with the authors, which I wasn't necessarily doing before, but I do far more now with a done with you service rather than done for you services. And as you and I said, we can talk more about that, as it fits in with this.
Yes. No, I want to come back to that. But let's talk about Riches and Niches for authors, because the one thing that authors always tell me, they come to me, because they're looking for a book coach or an editor or whatnot. And they say, "Melody, I've got this book. It's for everyone, Melody, everyone needs a copy." And I look at it and I think it's probably not something I'd read, but okay, everyone but me, apparently. So I want to talk a little bit about that, because as we said earlier, there's this fear that if I don't write a book for everyone, there's no money. But it doesn't mean within a certain industry or certain niche, there isn't a lot of money. So can we just talk a little bit about why it pays to write to a very specific audience. Let's talk about the why for a minute.
So the why literally is that you have far fewer competitors.
Mm-hmm.
You can be much more visible in the marketplace. So that means that your marketing can be much more effective and efficient. In addition to which, if you are one of the only games in town, so to speak, you can charge a lot more money for that because they can't get it anywhere else. So, you don't have to compete with price against anyone. So, those alone are, the benefits, the whys, having the fewer competitors, being able to charge more money, being more visible, being more effective and efficient with your marketing. Those are four specific benefits when you niche market.
Yeah, excellent.
I love the fact that you said, your message is for everyone, because one of the questions that I ask authors when they come to me and they say, Susan, will you publish my book through Aviva Publishing? And I say, well, who is your book for?
Right.
And, I would be a very rich person if I got $10 for every time somebody said, my message is universal and my book is for everyone. And I said, that's great, but how are you going to market it to everyone? That is my next question, because not even the great Procter and Gambles of this world can do that. So why does a little author, a little unknown author, think that they can do that when, the greats can't even do that, or don't even try? I think they could, but I don't think they want to try. It's not money well spent.
Well, and that's a really good point, because if you look at the Procter and Gambles of the world, you look at, I don't know, laundry detergent, and you say, okay, they probably sell a laundry detergent. It's like, no, they probably sell 4 laundry detergents for 4 different markets, one for the new mom, one for the this, one for the that. The adjustments in the laundry soap might be very minuscule, but they're directing them to different markets. So even a big company like that, instead of selling one product to everyone, they rebrand different products and they sell it to different markets depending on what people are looking for, right? Just as an example.
2 famous words: new and improved. Yes. Every time you use that, it's like people are going to go, oh, it's new and improved. I've got to get it. The word new, improved.
Yes. We added more blue dye. Yes.
Magic. I'll tell you another great company example, Melody Ann, and that is Nike. Nike.
Yes.
We associate Nike with sports, but they have different divisions of Nike to accommodate every single sport. So you've got your tennis, you've got your baseball, you've got maybe ice hockey, you've got, or the running, you've got all different sports. And if you go to one of their mega stores, one like, for instance, in New York City, they've got different departments for each one of those sports. And that is a brilliant example of how they've taken a brand, but they have niches that they infiltrate, and they want to be leaders in those niches.
Yes, I'm guilty as charged. I went into a store the other day looking for new shoes for volleyball, and they're like, well, we have volleyball shoes. Like, I bought volleyball shoes. So I now want a pair of specifically volleyball shoes. Talk about niche, right?
Yeah. And what makes them volleyball shoes? It's like maybe they're very similar to tennis shoes. I don't know, or, somebody else's shoes. But the fact is that they put the word volleyball. That means that anybody who is into volleyball will buy them because they think that they need shoes for that particular sport. And this applies to the books as well. So we're talking about obviously a different kind of product, but your book, I work with chiropractors who specialize, let's say, in whiplash. There are a dime a dozen chiropractors, but those who say they specialize in whiplash, does it mean that every chiropractor doesn't deal with patients who have whiplash? No, but this particular one says my specialty is whiplash.
Yeah, exactly. Let's turn to the how. So we know why. We've figured out the why. Let's turn to how. So I'm an author. I've written, let's just say I've written a memoir, right? I have my memoir, or no, let's do another nonfiction, because you mostly do nonfiction, and memoir is nonfiction. But so I'm a chiropractor.
Yeah.
I'm a chiropractor, and I've written this kind of book about, neck injuries, and it might even be a memoir of my car accident where I've, become a chiropractor and whatnot. So I have this book. What do I do now? How do I do this? How do I figure this out?
Let's look at it. I'd like to use the example actually that I went back to with the trade show.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I think that one will give you a better idea in terms of how you can pick the audience. I had an author, and this was a children's book, but I thought I could help him with his marketing. And it was a children's book about fishing with daddy.
Yes.
So I said, you know what? What about going after companies that sell fishing equipment, especially for children? Going fishing with daddy, what a great thrill that is. And how about, there are the rod manufacturers who have specialty rods just for children. How about your book going, being part of that sale? So you tie it into something that already exists out there. And when you can find companies, for instance, who have deep pockets, I mean, this is important, is that you can look, and they've got the same audience. Then you can look at how could you marry your book with their product. Like I did with the trade show market. I looked at who has the same audience as me. And it was primarily exhibit builders. So when I went, first of all, with this antique, but at the time, I took it to exhibit builders, the companies that make those multi-million-dollar exhibits, custom exhibits, they're called. And I showed them the book. They loved it. And what we did was we customized the cover. There was a letter from the president inside the cover. And then the rest of the book was exactly the same as this particular book. It worked so well. They bought 2,000 copies. Then it went so well, I went to the display companies, the ones that make portable exhibits. That's the other end of the market. They're cheaper, but they still got the same audience. They loved the book so much. They wanted it to use it as what we know now as a lead magnet. And to give it out, they had the postcards, and they said, if you fill in this postcard, you can get a copy of Susan's book. And they had it translated into 5 languages. And that's what they bought. They bought, close on 500,000 copies of the book.
Yeah.
So you're looking at people who have got the same audience as you, and that, as I said, your book and the information that you have in your book can serve their audience and show your expertise and obviously your credibility as well.
Yeah, I love that. And can we go back to this children's book? Because I'm fascinated by this children's book, Fishing with Daddy. So, the author comes to you, and of course the author's thinking, Susan, help me get into Amazon, help me get into Barnes and Noble, Indigo, Kobo, Kindle, whatever. Help me get it in here. right? Which is great. I'm sure they could sell some books that way. And then they're like, well, you say, how do you, who could you connect with? And, my next step would be, I'm going to try to work through steps. My next step might be, well, stores that sell fishing rods, right? Like, would you suggest that's another venue? And then what you said was then go to the people who then make the fishing rods. And if they're selling a child-sized fishing rod, get them to buy the book in bulk and then actually package it with the fishing rod. And then that goes to the stores that sell the fishing rods. So it's part of the package deal. Is that right? So we're
absolutely
okay.
Yeah, you got it right. You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Another avenue to think about, Melody Ann, is the trade show market. All of these companies go to trade shows and they want some kind of giveaway. Well, what if your book is their giveaway?
Right.
That. And then, when you're self-publishing, even, through Aviva Publishing, as we said, you actually, and we're going to talk about this, I know, later, that you're actually self-published, you can sell them at a ridiculous price. I mean, let's say on Amazon, if you go the Amazon route, it's $19.95. Well, if you're in control of producing them, you might be able to sell them for $5 a piece, let's say. And if they buy a few thousand copies, hey, it's well worth it.
Yeah. No, that makes
chunk of change.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So now this guy who wrote this children's book, Fishing with Dad, he's selling it in the bookstores. He's selling it on Amazon. He's selling it online. He's selling it through stores that sell fishing rods and, hunting equipment or whatnot. And he's packaged it with a children's fishing rod to sell at stores that they sell it at. And he's gone to the trade shows and he's offered it up as a giveaway for when parents come by and want to, they get, sign up for the email, right? Fill in the postcard, sign up for the email, and then get this free book. So now he's got 4 avenues of book sales. And that doesn't include any kind of add-on things where he may have a membership, people who want to fish with kids, right? How to teach your child to fish and how to anything else he may add on to that. So can you talk a little bit about those add-ons that he might do?
Well, all of those that you mentioned that would be attractive. I mean, you look at where do kids go? I mean, maybe the hobby stores might be something. Then you've got, if you look on the internet, how many fishing avenues there are, fishing channels. I mean, could that be if somebody's doing a feature on fishing, children, showing children how to fish? I mean, that could be a whole another market. Yeah. So it's really what this boils down to, Melody Ann, is just that different thinking. And this is why, I talk about differentiating your marketing from anybody else. It's like everybody else is selling through Amazon. They're trusting Amazon will sell their book, which we know that isn't what Amazon is about. And it serves a purpose, but it isn't. Don't rely on Amazon to do this. They're not going to sell boatloads of your book. They just are not. I mean, it's a shop window. You bring people there. The Amazon's going to do diddly squat for you. Even if you pay them money. It's like they're not going to do very much for you. And people relying on that. By the way, that's another mistake I talk about. I talk about 3 main mistakes. One is that your book is for everyone. The second is that your book is going to make you rich and famous. And then the third one is trusting that Amazon is going to sell your book for you. Those are 3 common, huge mistakes that authors make over and over and over again. And it hurts me that between you and I, and we've got other people who are talking about this differently. And hopefully we can get people rethinking how they market their book and who really needs what they have to offer. I want to go back to that memoir you talked about too.
Sure.
I've got authors who've written memoirs, one in particular that I'm thinking of, and it's about any event. Well, where the memoir that it's about, it's set in a certain part of the country. And so we've talked about the idea of how can she sell that book, in that area to the, the bookstores, and maybe there are travel companies, or there's the tourist bureau, or, I mean, all of that. Who would be interested in that book, especially people who live in the area that this book is set in? I've got authors who are in Hawaii and have written books about Hawaii. Well, guess what? Hawaii is a go-to tourist destination. So think about who would be involved in that environment, and that's who you start selling to. So if nothing else out of this interview, Melody Ann, if we can get our authors just to think differently about who really they could be selling the book to, and forget about Amazon and forget about, what everybody else is doing, and just focus their attention differently. I think, then I believe this interview will be successful, even more successful.
and I love that we've talked about a children's book, we've talked about a memoir, and we've talked about a, kind of traditional nonfiction, fit this into your business book, right? I love that we've covered all three of those bases, because, people are, but I'm writing a memoir. Yeah, but I'm writing a children's book. And it's like, but you can do this, right? It takes a little bit of out of the box thinking.
Exactly.
Which brings me to this. I was, we were talking before about Aviva Publishing, and I was interested in your business model because it's a little bit different than some of the others I've seen. And there's traditional publishing, and there's self-publishing, and then in between there are all these hybrid choices. And I'm always telling authors, be really careful who you give your money to, because you don't want to just give your money to someone and then you're not getting the services you want. Can you explain your business model? Because I really liked it. I really like what you do and how you've set this up.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I fell into this business model, but it really works. And that is to be self-published under the Aviva Publishing banner. There is and you and I had a little discussion about this before, there's a bit of a stigma about self-published books. If you tell somebody that, I self-published my book, there's sort of this perception, and again, perception is reality, that self-publishing a book isn't a real book. So if you get the blessing of a publishing company, and we happen to be based in New York, so that also helps because all the major publishers are in New York. So it's Aviva Publishing out of New York. You have the rights under our banner to, you control everything. What so many of the hybrids do, as you know, is they charge a lot of money, and they sort of don't allow you necessarily to have the say in the editing and the designing process, and then you have to buy the books back from them, the printing process. No. We've got relationships with editors, we've got relationships with designers, we've got relationships with printers, and we let you work directly with those people. You may have your own. We like to approve them first because we have a certain standard with the books that come out under the Aviva Publishing banner. We've been out there over 30 years. We've published over 400 titles. And so, there's a sort of expectation, an Aviva Publishing book I like to think that if you saw that book next to a traditionally published book in the bookstore, you would not be able to tell the difference that it was
Right.
self-published or, hybrid published. But yes, and we work with the author. I love to hold their hand through the process, because I would say it's like a 1,000-piece big jigsaw puzzle going through the publishing process. There's so many different pieces that you've got to put together to see that picture, that full picture. And it's daunting for an author, for a first-time author who hasn't a clue. And there's an element of ego that gets wrapped up in this as well. And you get talked into a lot of different things. I never talk anybody into working with me. They've got to want to work with me. I'm very transparent. I love working. I'll tell the truth about something. We build that relationship, and that's what's important. And I know you know that, because you do very much the same thing, I believe, as well.
No, I love that. So they maintain control over their book. They make all the final decisions. They own the copyright. It's their ISBN. It's their, it's their book.
My ISBN.
Oh, it's your ISBN. Okay.
That's about the only thing that Aviva Publishing actually owns is the ISBN.
Okay. Yeah. So you provide the ISBN, but they have full control over everything. They can decide whether it's paperback or audio, or when to sell it, where to sell it, how to sell it. And then on top of that, you take your expertise, riches and niches, and then you help them sell more books. By finding, put it with the fishing pole and sell it in the tourist shops, and you find those ways to kind of make sure they sell more books. So that is really, 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 really awesome. Is there anything else? Oh, I was going to ask you about the 3 biggest mistakes, but you've answered that. So
I know we can go over them again, though.
No, that's great. That's great. And I love your business model as well. I think that's really important for people to know that, you don't give over money and then give over control, and then pray, right? It's not a pay
praying with that too.
It's not a pay and pray kind of thing, right?
Pray. It's literally you pay and play, and we play together. I'm here to guide you. I mean, that's really the model, is that, I hold your hand, and first-time authors need that. But I also tell them to do their due diligence and, first of all, check me out. And secondly, to look at what other people are offering. And sometimes they say, oh, I want to go with that. And I was like, fine, as long as you know what you're letting yourself in for. Obviously there's the good, the bad, and the ugly out there. And I often get authors who went the route with another hybrid and come back to me and they said, help me undo the mistake I made.
Yes. And I've had authors come and just say, I've spent a lot of money. I don't really have anything to show for it. And so it's good. So, if you're out there, do your due diligence, right? So go through, and Aviva Publishing is an option, and it's one of several business models. And as an author, as a self-published author, you have you have all these choices, and that's why I wanted to talk about your business model, because I love the fact that there are all these choices out there. It also makes it scary and dangerous and confusing as well. Unfortunately, there's the good and the bad to it. But
and you can get lured into a lot of sales talk.
Yes.
Sales and marketing talk. These companies are very good at it. And that's why I say I never like to talk anybody into working with us. I want them to really know and understand why they're working with us, and the value that we can bring. And I always have a conversation with my authors. I don't just sign them up. I want to talk to them. I want to get to know them. Our first conversation sometimes can be an hour long, because I want them to know a bit more about me, and I want to definitely know more about them, what they want first of all, who their audience is, and also what they want the book to do for them, Melody. And I think that is very important because I want them to be realistic about their expectations. One author came to me and he said, when I asked that question, he said, I want to sell 1 million copies. And I'm like, okay. And how many people do you have currently on your list, your mail list?
Yeah.
They said, well, I don't have anybody yet. So I said, well, let's not negate that that dream, but let's be realistic and look at what could you be doing with this and how could you do a better job. And let's be more realistic as to what you can expect. Because as far as I'm concerned, as I think I said earlier, it's not about selling books. It's about selling your value and the message that you bring to the marketplace. You don't want to hide behind that book. The book is like a big fat business card. It can unlock lots of doors for you. It's definitely revenue generating as a tool. It's a credibility builder. I mean, it's all of those things. I mean, it's an incredible tool. And I say everybody should have one, but then use it with caution.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, a book project is this huge, big project. It's not something you do over a weekend and it's done. So if you don't know what's in it for you, and if you don't know it's in it for the reader, there's some foundational issues there that you need to fix before you move forward on that. So I want to talk about your podcast, because you also have an award-winning podcast. So tell me a little bit about your podcast. What is it called? And, kind of a little bit, do you do them, or do you bring guests on? Tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Okay. So podcast is 5 years old. It's called Book Marketing Mentors. And yes, I always bring guests on. In fact, people have said to me, experts have said, well, we need more of you. And I'm like, there's a lot of me that comes out in the interview, because it's not just about me asking questions, because I also challenge the guests and we talk about different components and what's worked and what hasn't worked. And sometimes I sound a bit like a stuck record, because I'm always harping on about niches and the importance of those. So I always say, I sound a little bit like a stuck record sometimes, but the message, gets over. This week I launched my 290th interview. So yes, and all different. I also have now, I just introduced a premium membership site as part of the Book Marketing Mentors, so that now I ask my guests to give me a little something extra for my premium members, and so that they're very generous and they do that. And so there's always something special, a giveaway, an extra piece of dynamite information that will help. And it's all about different aspects of book marketing. So you and I talked about the possibility of you coming on as a guest, and what you would talk about, and you talked about storytelling, or different aspects of putting a book together, and even how to incorporate stories into a nonfiction book, which is really a challenge. I mean, it is for me, because I'm like, here are the 10 tips to do that and the 7 ways to do this.
Yes. But if there aren't stories in there,
we love stories.
Exactly.
I'm getting to appreciate that more and more.
And your podcast sounds really exciting, and I really encourage people to go check it out. I'm just going to put up your podcast. There it is. So check out Susan's podcast at Book Marketing Mentors with an S on the end.com. I love podcasts. They are great places. You're driving in the car, or if you take the bus, you pop your headphones in, you can't hear the crazy chatter around you. Podcasts are great. I do a lot of listening to podcasts when I'm traveling. It's a main thing I do, and I'm really looking forward to listening to more of yours. Excellent.
You'll love some of the guests. We've got some
Yeah.
phenomenal guests.
Excellent. Excellent. And all these goodies that you're going to have for people, that's
Mhm.
excellent. I know you also have a retreat coming up, and I wanted to ask you about the retreat as well. Authors love retreats where all these, we kind of want to go on vacation and write a book at the same time. We authors have this, be on the beach, write a book in the morning, my agent in the afternoon will find me sail, Tell me about your retreat.
So obviously, since our last year and a half that we've gone virtual, it definitely is a virtual retreat now. It's a 3-day virtual retreat, the author to authority breakthrough. So we put together a author to authority roadmap, and they're individualized. So the retreat is kept very small on purpose, maximum 10 people. And we've got one coming up next week that's sold out, I'm afraid. But we've got another one coming up the 4th to the 6th of November. And so if people are interested in that, they need to get in touch with me. And maybe you can put this somewhere. It's Susan at avivapubs.com. I should have given you that earlier. And if they write to me, they can find out, and we can schedule a session where I talk to them and see that this is a right fit for them.
Yeah.
I always want to make sure that it's a right fit for people. But it's 3 long days that otherwise, if it isn't the right fit, then you don't want to do that. So if it's a right fit for people to come, we spend 3 days, we put together this roadmap, and it starts off, I tell you, day one is very much about mindset, Melody Ann, because we've got to have the right mindset. I believe that is the foundation of everything that we do with regard to sales and marketing of our book, promoting our book, is that mindset. How do you feel about it? What are you willing to do? What aren't you willing to do? What do you feel comfortable with from a marketing standpoint? Just because it's a strategy out there doesn't mean it's the right one for you. So we want to make sure that, if speaking's a good strategy for you, let's go and look at speaking opportunities. If training or coaching, what's right for you? Maybe online courses. These are all ways in which the book can be utilized in many different ways. I'm all about repurposing. So you've got this book, which is full of dynamite material. I call it, there's magic in that book. It's just full of articles and blog posts and social media posts and everything else posts. So it can be repurposed. So we talk about different opportunities to repurpose as well.
Yes.
Material.
That's brilliant. And I will get that. I will get the your link for your retreat, and I will get that in the show notes or in the interview description. So not to worry.
Email me. I think that's the best if anybody's interested, because any promotional material will have them have an interview with me beforehand in any event. Because as I said, I want to make sure this isn't, just pay your money and turn up. This is, let's find out that it's the expectations are there and that it's the right fit for you.
That sounds good. So it will be in the show notes, and I will make sure that Susan's email is there as well. If you want general information about just kind of what does Susan do and how does she help authors, you can go to authormarketingmentor.com and it will be there as well. And I think, is there anything else? Did we miss anything, Susan?
I don't know. We covered a lot of material.
We did, didn't
I'm
we?
Like, oh my goodness. Yes, I can't believe the time has just flown by.
It does.
Like, what did we talk about for 45 minutes?
It does. It just absolutely flies by. Okay, if you are out there and you are looking for author help, think about selling your book in a niche. riches in niches, and that is something that Susan does. So please check her out. And if you haven't subscribed to YouTube channel Author Nation, please do. And don't forget, we have a Facebook group as well. And I'll look forward to seeing everyone next Thursday for another live interview. See you.